So in this video, what I'm going to do is implement the service interface. We're going to create the sort of starting point for that. So in our app test here, we've implemented the kind of Express application and made our test pass for that, but that's basically delegating all responsibility to a service file or a service object that hides behind a movie service interface, but we haven't actually got anything yet that implements that movie service interface. So now I'm going to do that. So to do that, and at some point I should kind of organise this folder, but I'm not going to worry about that just yet. So I'm going to put in here movie. In fact, we've already got the movie service interface file there, so we'll just go to there and go movie service.spec.ts. So here we can say describe. This is going to be movie service, and our first thing is add vote. And if we look at this, if you've not watched Jelly Rainsberger's World's Best Introduction to TDD, I kind of wholeheartedly kind of recommend that. It's the best kind of course on TDD. Yeah, it just goes there's just so much kind of gold in that course. So yeah, it's well worth it. And I think one of the things that I'm hopefully going to do here will probably be a very sort of poor imitation of something that he does there, but yeah, hopefully it'll work. So we can basically look at our tests here and use this as the basis for driving out what our movie service spec needs to do, because we can see that we've said when we call the service with argument 1, 2, 3, 4 on the add vote, it should return nothing. And when it returns 5, 6, 7, 8, it should return nothing. And we've also got the things here where I'm saying that when we call get movie with argument 1, 2, 3, 4, it should resolve with this, and when we call it with 5, 6, 7, 8, it should resolve with this. So we can use these as the sort of the basis for our tests for the actual service itself. So if I go in here and say it should accept vote for movie 1, 2, 3, 4. We can just copy that there for the moment, so I've got it as a reference, and so we can put here something along the lines of expect. It's going to be asynchronous, so we're going to need to await service.add vote 1, 2, 3, 4. And I guess so we're going to say to equal, possibly even deep equal. Right, let's go with 2b. Can we do have a null? Yeah, 2b null. Probably not the best test in the world, but so we can do that, and we can look and see if that can run that and see what happens. We already got the watch on there. No, we don't. Let's put that on there. So we don't have service there. So I'm going to say service equals new movie service. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to say create class movie service. I'm going to say create add vote, and that's going to be movie ID. Okay, let's make that. Let's just make that undefined. That's the default thing that's been returned there, and we'll do that as promise void. So that's good. That satisfies that. We can also then so we can get rid of that. And we can also then put in a context there for context get movie, and put it should get movie details for movie 1, 2, 3, 4. But let's just put get details. Remove the duplication. That's going to be async, and we can probably put there. Again, we can take our spec from here. That's what we have. So we can say expect await service dot get movie 1, 2, 3, 4 to deep equal, and then we can put that in there. We can, that doesn't exist yet, and that's going to be equal to new movie service. That doesn't exist, create that method. That takes a movie ID and it returns a promise of a, in fact actually put here just to make life a little bit easier. Implements movie service interface, which is what we're trying to do. And there we put returns out promise movie. That's going to complain because it's not implementing the interface correctly. And that can just return. Let's add that in there as well. Return. That's not returning anything, so we can take that and put that in there, and now that works. So we've hard coded that, and we can now change. We can now make sure that 7, 8, 5, 6, 7, 8. Notice I've kind of mixed up my kind of context a little bit, because I think in the app spec I've actually created a context for the movie ID, so I should probably kind of keep that consistent here. I'll put something like context movie 1, 2, 3, 4. Put that, and I can do that. And I can do that. This bit kind of, I guess it doesn't massively matter. It's just whatever you find kind of more readable, I guess, at this point with that. 5, 6, 7, 8. 5, 6, 7, 8. That should return that. That needs to return that. That's not working, so we can change that implementation there and say again up here, if movie ID equals 5678, then return that, else return that. That should now pass. And now what we can do here, so this is a bit where we turn this effectively from testing this specific kind of movie service to something where we're actually implementing anything which is implementing this interface. This is essentially kind of making sure that something implements the contract that we've defined here. We're basically that something must behave like this, and here is something, you know, checking that something behaves like that. So this is really more a contract. It's not telling us anything about how the internals of this work. It's not saying about whether it should be, you know, whether there's a doesn't care whether it's an array implementation or a, you know, database or whatever. So we need other tests to kind of help drive that part out. But what we can do here is then basically abstract this a little bit and say something along the lines of function movie service contract. Let's change it, movie service contract tests. Takes an instance of a movie service, which is going to be movie service interface, and then we can do that. And now when we run this, there'll be no tests found, but now we can get rid of that, and we can get rid of that, and we can get rid of that, and now there's still going to be no service found, but now we can do movie service contract tests, new movie service. And that will pass, and we can prove that that's still working by going and changing that to 5679, and that's saying that it's not implementing our contract. No, it isn't implementing our contract. So that means now we could go and, you know, we could call this dumb movie service, because it is pretty dumb because it doesn't do anything, and we can, you know, make that a new implementation there. We could do something slightly. We could do another implementation of this. Here and say this is going to be an array based movie service, and that's going to contain private movies equals, and that's going to be an array, and it's going to contain that and that. And there we can say return this dot movies dot find movie dot id equals movie ID, and we can then go and say, right, let's go and test that against our array movie service, and that all still passes. So just to make that kind of clear, we could put in here the name of the service, if we so wanted to. In fact, let's change that. See if we can we do something along the lines of maybe not just going to work. Can we do something like that? Does that work? Yeah, there you go. So you can just prove that you are actually kind of, sort of testing all of those things, that they conform to the contract. But so now we can go and we can write more tests to make sure this is behaving as we want it to. So if we wanted one that was going to work with the database, we can implement that and add tests that ensure that it kind of works to that. But here we've just created effectively a contract test. I'm going to pause that video. I'm going to stop that video there, and we'll do another one in a bit.